How's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions, and welcome to our first out of print omnibus and absolute editions from DC Comics and the reprint poll that I will be sharing with DC. But before I get started with the information and everything, I want to let my panel introduce themselves. So starting from the right and then working ourselves down the dumb. Who are you and where can people find you?
Yes, Lars Pearson, publisher and editor-in-chief of Norweigen Press, formerly of Wizard Magazine. And since we're talking about Omnis here, a question for Omar. I was talking to a friend who's a chemistry nerd about how I'm overcome by, like, the fumes off some Omnis, right? And I was like, is this fume coming from the glue or the ink? And she said, oh, well, you could try licking the glue. Because if it tastes like Elmer's, then it's probably animal based, and if it tastes like chemicals, then it's probably more chemical based.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there.
What's your policy on licking Omnis?
I'm gonna stop you right there. Dibs on a video of Lars licking Omnis until he passes out.
Patreon content.
He's calling it right now before anybody else gets dibs on that.
We do library tours, and it could just be lick.
It could just be Lars licking Omnis until he passes out. We're like, well, apparently you can take 35 licks before you pass out and start hallucinating.
How many licks does it take to get the center of an Omni, Lars?
Of an Omni.
35. I've had people think I was weird for spelling Omnis, but I think Lars just took the cake.
Maddie's got a side gig where she gets paid to smell Omnis. All right, and to his right is Taylor Talks Comics. Who are you, dude?
I don't know how to follow that. I'm Taylor Talks Comics. I do not lick my books, but I have my own YouTube channel called Taylor Talks Comics. I go live once a week to go over the comic book industry news. Our next live show will be Tuesday at noon Eastern, so be sure to join me and subscribe. And then also I do the social media for Omar. So if you ever interact with social media on Near Mint Condition, that is me doing that. And right now we have 48 likes, but we have over 100 people, 200 people watching. So hit the like button.
Omar, ¿cómo estás, hermano? Yes, thank you for that, Taylor. Taylor is our social media guy. So if you're talking to somebody, it's probably him. So if somebody's ignoring you, it's probably him. Below him is Dom of X. Who are you, man?
Dom of X, YouTube creator by the same name, channel by the same name. I am the assistant editor of comicreleases.com, your one-stop shop for all collected editions up to the date. I'm also the project intern and all else for Near Mint Condition. And thank you for having me at 8:30 something in the morning.
Oofa.
Well, thank you for being here, buddy. And it's 8:30 for you. It's 11:40 for me. Weird how time works. And to his right is this guy that can't breathe and has been sniffing that mask.
Sniffing glue. I'm sniffing the glue.
What is up,
Omni Dog? Long day to give up sniffing glue. Yeah,
that's right.
God, I love that movie.
I do too. I am Omni Dog from Omni Dog's Vault. And on Instagram and Discord, I am the Silver Age Silver Fox and the ambassador of comics. Thank you.
Ambassador of comics.
I just thought of that. Dibs, trademark, everything. That's me. Don't you steal it, Omar. You ain't no ambassador.
Okay, man. I'm not taking it. I'm just saying you're gonna have to get that approved by Don Rosa.
He's gonna have to I'm gonna go talk to him immediately with a certain
he's gonna have to approve that. The Silver Fox of Silver Age Comics, boy, you missed that. That's actually really good.
Thank
Dom,
you.
let's copyright that before he takes it. Into his right,
Dom's my friend now.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, you're such a friend stealer. To his right is Chris. Who are you, sir?
I am Chris Balga. I am part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network, as well as Geekverse. You can a lot of all our live stuff is you look at Geekverse podcast. Don't look up Geekverse because there's another one who tried to pull what Omar's doing to Omnidog and steal different things. So look up Geekverse podcast on YouTube. All our YouTube stuff is on there live. Part of two shows there, World's Finest True Believers, where we break down all the guest comes on and goes over their favorite comic book arc or graphic novel, delves a deep dive into it of all the parts, and then co-host a Marvel Alliance where we look at everything going on in the lovely MCU comics, streaming, all the stuff Marvel with my co-host Brent.
And he has a great radio voice. What a deep
He does. He does.
Amazing melodious voice here.
Oh, thank you. Jeez.
Only Lars had that.
Well, I'm gonna go out while I'm ahead now. Good night, everyone.
Your voice is like dark chocolate. Yeah.
Isn't it though?
I do like dark chocolate. So
Melts
Yeah.
in your mouth.
Like melted dark chocolate.
What are you guys trying to do to Chris? What's happening here? All right.
We appreciate him.
Between that and the linking of books,
Trying to hype him up, Omar. That's what it is.
What kind of stream are we doing here now?
Yeah.
I would like to see an X-Men version of Jeopardy. The contestants would be Dama Vex, Peter M, and yourself, hosted by Jess.
Oh my!
Lionheart brought this up last night.
We could actually do Hollywood Squares, where we get somebody from the audience, right? That would be kind of fun, and we can donate all the money to charity. I'm just coming up with this stuff on the spot.
Lionheart brought this up last night in my show with Dom, and I thought it was a really good idea with those contestants, and I'd be happy to host it. I couldn't quite figure out how I could get a Jeopardy board, Krakoa for 100, right behind me. I wasn't sure how I'd be able to do that, but if we can figure out a way to do this, and actually, that would be fun if we could somehow raise money for charity.
And Jess, you'd have to shave the goatee part and just have the Alex Trebek mustache.
Okay, I'll do that. It'll grow back. I've done it before.
Let me think about that after we get over these poll humps that we've been dealing with. So
you can make a Jeopardy slideshow pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
You can?
Oh yeah, there's slideshow things you can make that are just like a Jeopardy board.
All right, Taylor just volunteered. Okay,
Taylor,
we'll talk about that later.
I'll be his Vanna White. Different show, but
tempting.
Different show. Okay, but that's also for me on my channel. I'll be inviting you guys. Don't you steal that idea,
But you want the most engagement.
Oh,
you want the most engagement.
We want people to actually.
Because we want to raise the most money.
Yeah.
Are you doing it for yourself, or are you doing it for charity? I thought we were doing it for charity. Make up your mind.
Okay.
Please think of the children. All right, please think of the.
We can talk about it afterward. Okay. Now, I do need to get started with this. So what this is the Omnibus reprint poll for DC Omnis and Absolute Editions. So this isn't anything new. This is things that have existed over the years. Some things you may not even know that were out there, and also some things you may have seen at Ollie's just yesterday. But as long as it's out of print from the distribution level, we added it to the list. So we did add it to the list, and it's there, and you can vote for it. You have 5 votes. I'll explain how to vote later. Very similar to the way that you voted for the Most Wanted Marvel Omnibus reprint. This is the same way we're doing it. I'm going to send the top 20 Absolutes and Omnis together to DC, my 3 DC contacts, whatever they decide to do with that list. Even if they shuck it away or never look at the email, it's up to them. But at least we tried. So we'll see what happens. Big thank you to James and the people that work behind the scenes, like Taylor, who put the slideshow together, and checking with everybody, like Johnny and Max and everybody that helped out, checking, make sure that these books were out of print from a distribution level. So, okay.
And could I just say something real fast?
Sure.
So we have a history now with Marvel has listened to our poll results, right? We have a lot of reprints done for them.
Mm-hmm.
DC, we don't have that history, but I think one thing that we can do to impact that is have as many votes as possible. So make sure you share this poll around all of your social media, all Reddit, wherever you want to go, because the more votes we have, I think the more power it would have when DC looks at it. If we could tell them, like, look, 2,000 people voted on this, they might be like, oh, that's a significant number. So make sure you share this everywhere you want to.
Yes. So remember, these are not new books. These are old books. We are working on a new book list. It may, at the end of the day, have over 1,000 books that you can vote for. We're trying to figure out a simpler way to do that.
It'll be towards
but in reality, when Marvel is printing 35% more books than DC is, that's just what we're dealing with. Plus, DC, has a history of being around with the Golden Age and the Silver Age a little longer than Marvel has. Marvel kind of took a break there. They weren't printing a lot of things during their timely era. Have I sent the top 21 list over to Marvel since I'm a Gen Xer? I haven't decided yet because they're still in a retreat. So Monday I'm going to send the list. It's either going to be the top 20 or top 25. Maybe top 21 as a Gen Xer. I see what you did there. Lionheart, thank you for the super chat. Oh yeah, I've answered that. And we'll discuss that later. Okay. Who would want a reprint of Jack Kirby's 2001, Marvel or DC? Who would reprint it? Well, right now it would be Marvel. Maybe. Yeah, Marvel, because Machine Man's there and they're still printing things with Machine Man. Yeah. So
Jack Kirby. Ugh, boring.
Oh, Mr.
sorry,
Silver
what's
Fox,
happened there, Silver Age, Silver Fox?
Come on.
I'm just jamming up Taylor. It's fun.
Okay, don't get too excited, Omni Nation. I have 3 DC contacts. One of them only gets back to me from time to time. Let's not get crazy. And that's just fact. I'm being honest.
3 contacts, at least one who acknowledges he's alive. Yes.
Who at least calls me Omar. Like, that's it.
Who knows your name?
All right. Let's go ahead and start the slideshow. Thank you again, Taylor, for putting this together. And what we're going to do is show the books that are out of print, kind of like what we did with the Marvel books. And then we're going to give you a chance to vote when I share my screen there. So you all vote for whatever you want to when we start. I'm going to kick the voting live right today after we go through this list. It's not a long list because DC, like I said, prints about 35% less than Marvel does. And also they've reprinted a lot. There was a year where they reprinted a lot of their books.
They're getting better. Yeah.
Yeah, this past catalog was like, oh my god, what happened?
Well, in fact, you slightly worry they're prioritizing reprints over new ones. It's like, please do print new ones as well.
Well, I think part of it was like, okay, we don't have the staff we used to. Let's just print books that we had before. Just send the file to the printer.
Quite possibly.
So this is the Batman Absolute editions. This is all of the Batman Absolute editions that are available for you to vote on. These are books that are out of print. And like I said, you may have found something at Ollie's or your local comic book store or even Amazon, but they are completely out of print from a distribution level. So there's a lot of Batman. And we know we are getting some new ones. Or
Omar, with Batman and Robin and Incorporated, is Incorporated mostly volume 3 of Grant Morrison?
Yeah, Incorporated is volume 3, and then volume 2 is the Dick Grayson, Damian Wayne stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's what the Batman Reborn is. I didn't know Long Halloween had gone out of print again until we started looking.
Oh yeah, no, the Loeb sale stuff goes out pretty.
So
fast.
I want to say Long Halloween had 3 printings. Dark Victory and Haunted Night, I think, only had 1 each.
I'm pretty sure Long Halloween and Dark Victory have been out of print for a few years now.
Yeah.
Dark Victory is really hard to find.
Well, I've been on the hunt for those 2 in particular, and I haven't been able to find them.
I'm kind of surprised that Hush has just stayed out of print. I would have thought that would be
that has been reprinted quite a number of times too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Jim Lee, it's Jeff Loeb. It's probably regarded to a lot of people as one of the best, if not the very best Batman story.
That's true. If they want to make people pay more for Long Halloween, someone said they could add in the special that they did a few years ago.
That would be amazing. Good special. That single issue was really
it would be
good.
better, and then if you already bought it would feel screwed. But that would be helpful.
Yeah. The special would definitely add that. Oh, I'm going to be double dipping.
Yeah.
It was an okay special. So these are the 2 absolutes that are out of print: Absolute Crisis on Infinite Earths and Absolute Identity Crisis.
Crisis on Infinite Earths has been out of print for ages, it feels.
I'm really surprised they didn't put it back in print when George Perez was going through that.
Yeah. True.
I don't know why. Like,
it's arguably one of the most impactful stories of all time, not just
that should be like a perennial evergreen.
I mean, there are a lot of versions of Crisis, and so
they did the box set, they did the deluxe edition.
Yeah, it may wind up competing with itself as it.
But you figure DC would understand that there's different collectors for these. Not everybody wants everything in a box set. Not everybody. When it comes to somebody like George Perez, he wanted in the biggest format that you can get it in, the absolute format. The book is beautiful. The only thing I wish, and I wish they would rethink this again, is they would add the history of the DC universe in absolute format. I would buy that book again just to have those issues.
That would be good, and especially it's one of the only Omnis that's basically has 2 books. You have the main story, and then you have that small little compendium with basically all the extras and the story behind the whole creation, which is really cool.
Or maybe they do a separate absolute history of the DC universe.
Well, remember there's two books. There's the
Yeah,
companion in this slipcase, and so they can easily add it.
They
How do we vote? I'm going to explain how to vote after we're done looking at the books that are out of print. There's not that many, I promise. Thank you so much for the super chat, Bruce. But DC already sent notice to Marvel. They own Machine Man in 2001. Oh, they can send notes all day long.
Yeah,
it's up to the lawyers to argue over that.
That was a news story that I felt needed to be followed up on as to how true it was, how what was going on there. I think we need to know.
Well, you're the journalist. Why didn't you follow up?
Well, because I'm not getting paid to do it. So that's
Isn't Absolute Final Crisis also
coming back to print?
Yeah. So if it's coming back to print, we didn't add it on the list. We know that it's in the catalog and
it's been solicited.
It has been solicited. Thank you, Gon. So yeah, that's why we didn't add it to the list.
Let me go check on the date right now as we're
my man. All right. Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't talk about. Anybody got anything to add about Absolute?
No.
I'm one of the probably only ones on this group that, yes, I understand the complaints of it, but I have a special. It's what got me back into comics. That story. So
okay, cool, fair enough.
Deathstroke has a really cool fight in Identity Crisis where he beats pretty much everyone.
That is so ridiculous. Amazing. That was one of the angriest I've ever been at a comic book.
To answer the question, though,
Nightwing is fighting the entire Justice League, and they're dogpiling on him.
To answer the question real quick, though, for the person who asked about Final Crisis, it's coming out on the 25th of June of this year.
Okay, it's not very
awesome. Green Lantern, Green Arrow, absolutes. So quite a few.
Yeah, that first one is the Kevin Smith run.
Yeah, that's right. And then Green Lantern, Green Arrow, which is coming out in omnibus format, but some people appreciate the bigger art. Green Lantern Rebirth. They are doing. What's the one they're reprinting? Aren't they
reprinting? Complete collection type?
That's what they're doing.
Books.
Oh man, I can't believe all these are gone. Sinestro Corps, War, and Blackest Night. Now, here's the thing when it comes to absolute editions. This is for the art, right? If you're looking for a continuing story that has every issue, that's not what absolutes are about. That's more omnis. And
sometimes you get it.
Most of the time, unless the creators enter omnis, then we have problems and missing issues. These do leave a lot of issues behind between Green Lantern Rebirth and Sinestro Corps War, and big chunks are missing between Sinestro Corps War and Blackest Night. It's like, here's the biggest events that we had for Green Lantern. We had 2005 with Green Lantern Rebirth, 2007 with Sinestro Corps War, and 2009 with Blackest Night. And that, to a lot of people, was as good as DC got back then. And I don't think has been that good since then. Not me personally, but a lot of people believe that this is where DC kind of flattened out. So, dang, that's a lot of Green Lantern.
Yeah, I wish that they would go back and add a couple more of those one-shots to the Sinestro Corps War, because they were some darn good
that
are really, I think they're pivotal to the story.
Well, like the Ion story was real, and that wasn't even collected in the omnibus.
Correct. Yeah.
That's why I said most of the time, and that adds a lot of things that happen later on to the character of Kyle. Miscellaneous. I think. Yeah, Taylor. Is this the last absolutes, Taylor? Or
no? This is alphabetical. So there's still some after that, but this is all the ones that only have one volume to them.
Yeah.
They don't
I got you. Okay.
New Frontier's out. I didn't even know that.
Well, yeah, the 15th anniversary of New Frontier, because there are two printings to New Frontier. Remember, there's the original printing that didn't have the special, and then the new printing that added the special.
Yeah.
There is one note I want to make about this slide, though. The last two there, so those were actually not officially titled Absolute, but the JLA
slipcase.
Right, but the JLA Avengers wasn't the same trim size in a slipcase. The Deadman collection, though, I think was smaller trim size. So I don't know if we should. I was going to ask you this before the chat as a last minute question, but we're being circumvented. But
yeah, don't use that word.
No. That was kind of more of just a deluxe size slipcase.
Yeah, it was a little bit smaller than Absolute, but it was hardcover and it wasn't a slipcase. I don't know if
I'll throw it in there. Maybe they'll be like, hey, we can make this bigger.
But that was of the Neal Adams stuff. Was what that Dead Man collection was?
Okay.
Yeah.
So Danger Girl, of course, was a Wildstorm title, but when DC bought them out, they were like, "Hey, let's bring in the Wildstorm books too." A little bit of history: Absolute Authority, #1. That's the very first Absolute edition.
Yeah.
Oh.
And what they wanted to do was call it Absolute Authority, and then the next book, whatever it was going to be, Batman or whatever, it was going to be like Bat-tacular Batman or something. Change the name of Absolute to whatever the first letter of the title was going to be.
And then they realized branding.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
No.
Not until recently.
What happened was the guy that made these, because I mean it's no secret that this was a big inspiration from European graphic novels. Like, they were looking at Europe, kind of like what Jack Kirby was doing back in the day. They actually followed that idea and said, "Oh, Europe has a lot of cool editions. There's these things that have slipcases and they're bigger format. Let's do that." And they did. But the guy that actually created the project, the Absolute project, left, or he got fired. So they were like, "Yeah, we'll just call it Absolute whatever." I can't remember what the second one was, but it was like it started with a different letter.
Was it Scott?
And that's how they got the Absolute idea.
Yeah.
Wasn't that Absolute Authority odd? It wasn't complete, was it? That first one? It was incomplete.
The Omnibus has more material than those first 2 volumes, I believe.
Yeah, it does.
But Absolute Authority is really complete for the Ellis Hitch run, and then volume 2 is more as I will say that Absolute Authority is one of those that really vindicates the format, because I don't wish to speak heresy, but there's certain comics that you're like, by blowing it up to absolute size, it's not necessarily better. It's just bigger. But Absolute Authority with Brian Hitch's art, it really benefits from being bigger. I mean, he's
that is the title that gave us the Hollywood landscapes, widescreen format. That they took over to the Ultimate Comics when Mark Miller and Brian Hitch went over to Ultimates.
Yeah.
And it kind of became a trend for so long. New Frontier is out of print again. Beautiful story. Ronin is Frank Miller's. Awesome story. Scarlet, that's another one that's not complete. He's actually that's only the first 2 parts. And he did another part for Dark Horse Comics that was not included in.
Right, so that one's I'm not entirely sure with, because now Bendis has his own imprint with Dark Horse as well. So I don't know if DC.
Yeah, I don't think DC could reprint that one. So I may take that one out. Superman for Tomorrow. That's the Jim Lee and Brian Azzarello book.
Transmet 3. People were upset that they went reprint of Volume 1, reprint Volume 2, reprint of Volume 1 again. So now here's your chance to vote for it.
Mm-hmm.
Wildcats by Jim Lee. My buddy Gio, I'll never forget when I was on the fence about buying it. He was like, "Look at it this way. You're buying an overpriced art book." Because I was talking about how much I did not like that story, but I love Jim Lee's artwork. Even but that does have Chris Claremont's Huntsman in it. And let's see, Absolute Wonder Woman by Azzarello and Cliff Chang. Volume 1 is out of print. Absolute I didn't know Why the Last Man Volume 2 is out of print. I don't know if they may have to reprint the first one and then go with that. And we talked about Dead Man, and then of course the ever beloved JLA Avengers, George Perez and Kurt Busiek's masterpiece. Yeah. I'm gonna throw it to them because I think they have the copyright to the Absolute format to print it. Since Marvel didn't have that, I don't know if it means they can print it or not. And
what about
the Absolute
Prometheus
book 1 through 3?
What's on the next slide?
They're in there, Bruce.
Yeah.
Next slide.
Yeah. I promise they're in there because we checked the list a few times. Maybe I just did.
Because there's a whole Alan Moore slide coming up.
Doesn't IDW currently have the license for Danger Girl? I don't think so because it's a Wildstorm product, right? I may have to look at that because they haven't even done anything with Danger Girl. Alan Moore's Absolutes. So this is where you're going to find all 3 leagues.
Top 10.
Top 10.
Sorry, hold on a second. That volume 3 is technically the Black Dossier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is something that's missing from here that was imprinted by ABC, right? It was who's the current right owner of the? They keep putting them out in like a smaller graphic.
What
is it?
You mean Top Shelf?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it Top Shelf that owns the last story arc? That Alan Moore's
there's a
working
whole
on?
bunch of stuff. There's 2 hardcovers, and then there's like the little or the Nemo
The
trilogy.
Nemo
box
book,
set.
yeah. So that stuff is not in these, by the way.
Right.
Yeah. This is just the stuff that DC can print when they were still using the
this is
America's Best Comics
This is
label.
like first
Right.
half. Yeah.
So that should be. I don't know if you want to change on if the poll says that or not, but it should say volume 1, volume 2, and then the Black Dossier. I don't know.
I may actually.
I suspect they'll figure it out. It's okay.
It is the 3rd volume technically, but
I can put it in parentheses. All right. Oh my gosh. Absolute Promethea 1, 2, and 3. Who else was waiting for the Immateria collection besides my dumbass?
Yeah.
Still in the catalog, by the way. Still in DC's website. If you ever want to go there and have your heart broken. The Immateria collection was going to be the very first widescreen omnibus. DC and actually J.H. Williams, like, we're talking it up, and he was like, "Yeah, as soon as I'm done with Sandman, what was it that he wrote? Overture." He was like, "I'm going to start working on the cover."
I wonder if he ever did finish like the cover and artwork for it.
No, I think it's dead. I think I tweeted him like 5 years ago. And
I know,
like,
but I don't know. I wonder if he finished the art for it. It just never got made.
I don't
I'm sure
know.
like the files and stuff probably a little bit wacky with making that kind of format.
One thing that DC did to me was solicit absolute DC art of Adam Hughes, and it's still on my wish list. That was back in 2019, and they just solicited it and never did anything about it. And I'm keeping it on my wish list, just praying that they actually do it.
So what you're saying is, Jess, is that because it's on your wish list, we're not getting it.
Well, remember, they've also solicited plenty of things years ago, like Hush, the omnibus, and that came out. So
when we get to the poll where we do the books that don't exist, make sure you campaign for that one, Jess.
Okay, thank you. I will.
Okay, it is Black Dossier. Like it's in there, not volume 3.
Okay.
An Absolute Top 10, which is another book by. I love Absolute Top 10. If you haven't had a chance to read it, there is a compendium that actually has more content.
I just got it. It was a great deal on buy 3 get 2 at Amazon. So
sometimes when things get pulled, like the Immateria collection, it's just kind of inexplicable because you're like, surely that would sell, but they don't have it. Yeah, I don't know.
There's going to be 2 slides for Batman, just to warn the viewers here.
That's there's a reason, because they don't own the rights to those. Those were published by somebody else, because it's Alan Moore's book, right? He could take the property somewhere, wherever he wants.
Here's what happened. Here's a little history lesson for you. So Alan Moore vowed to never work for DC ever again. So then he was doing these stories for Wildstorm, and then Jim Lee sold Wildstorm to DC, and Alan Moore found himself in a position where he was working for DC again, even though he didn't want to. So then he's like, he wrapped up that story and then took the rest of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen to another publisher.
So never piss Alan Moore off.
Wow.
Sometimes
it doesn't take.
Yes,
a lot,
unfortunately,
though.
it is tragically easy to piss Alan Moore off. Is the problem.
There was a double Ex Machina Absolute in Spanish solicited. Oh, that's cool. So Adu is saying that the Adam Hughes is resolicited for next month. I have it pre-ordered at Amazon. Dom, you on that, buddy? Can you check on that?
True.
I think he's just teasing Jess. Jess, calm down a little bit. Don't get too excited.
I don't know. I don't know anything about that book.
I haven't heard anything about that.
I don't.
I didn't see it in the solicits, but
I'm on Amazon now, and I don't immediately see it.
Yeah, no, it's not a thing. I'm like
effing with me.
Well, maybe it's like available in his country. Golly, why are we jumping all over people's cases?
Well,
maybe it could be like available in Spain or people get different things overseas. I don't know.
Well, Jess would be fine with that. He's not buying it to read it anyway.
Oh, man,
Yeah,
David
that's
right omnibuses. He's gonna be like, done. Don't ever talk to me again. That is not the term.
It's just going to be his covers and stuff.
Golly.
And this is just the first slide.
Goodness
All right,
gracious, that's
so
a lot of
Batman: The
Age.
Golden Age Volume 1 has been reprinted. 2 through 9 have not, and some of these go for outrageous prices.
They do.
And by go, I don't mean somebody is selling it for that much and it just sits there for 2 years.
And I'll add that 10 just came out, and it looks like it could be going out of print very soon too. So
Yeah.
Stop trying to make the Golden Age happen.
Speaking as the poor bastard who works as a price guide manager, the thing here is like number 7 in particular is going for really high money, and 8's doing pretty well. Some of these go for very high money. Which begs the question, like, well, why don't they do a reprint? Well, they might be going for high money because they didn't sell that great in the first place. And so if you're a publisher, you know, just because something's going for high money on the back market, it doesn't necessarily mean you should reprint it, that you'll make a bunch of money off it. So I don't know, but that is a lot.
Just because one or two cats are paying $500 for volume.
Exactly. That doesn't mean that
doesn't mean that 100 people are going to buy the book again.
Yeah.
I mean, they very well could
build up reservoir. Yeah, it might.
We do see the same thing happen with Marvel Comics. That's why I always say if it's something obscure like Power Pack or Cloak and Dagger, chances of those books getting reprinted are just the handbooks. Yeah, that's another big one.
Frequently stuff that didn't sell that well in the first place, and there's not a huge demand for it. That's going for high money because there's just not that many of them about them.
And I've actually had people ask me just recently about the first handbook, and I was like, oh, they were like, I just started collecting last year. What are the odds of that being reprinted? And I remember telling somebody, I'm like, well, you're the second person to ask me, so probably not high on the priority list. But I don't know. They could.
Yeah. Also, if you're DC, you're not just going to up and reprint volume 7 here. You'd probably you'd have to commit to reprinting the lower numbers first and try to get up to volume 7, and that's hard.
Yeah. So this is stuff. Jess, do you still have this stuff? Did you keep your Batman Golden Age?
No, I sold them off 2 or 3 years ago. And
not for
Superman.
you, huh?
Superman too. Yeah, it was part of the curating of my collection. I did a video on it, just stuff, this and Superman. It was really cool that it was being reprinted, and I was excited. And then after the first volume of each one is actually pretty interesting, Superman and Batman. And then afterwards, I was just like, I don't think I'm going to read this, and I definitely don't think I'm going to reread this. So I ended up selling all of them. It was
DC. Alpha alternative.
Well, I'm sure.
What would it be?
Alternative.
The Inferior 5.
Somebody say Ambush Bug, please.
Ambush. Quite like Ambush Bug.
Did they have any licensed comics that were like weird like that, like TV shows?
Not like Alf, but they had things like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe for a while.
Yeah.
They had a Thundercats comic.
Yeah.
They have some licensed stuff. All right, let's look at slide number 2. Amazing Man. Oh wow. Brave and the Bold, Bronze Age 1 and 2 and 3. It's got some Jim Apparel artwork in there.
Get some
Batman Neal Adams Omnibus. Now, Jess, tell people about that before they get too excited. What makes an issue? I know you got into big fights on the internet over that.
About Batman by Neal Adams?
His most watched video.
It is. Yeah, if you Google that book, my
video
video
it's the most watched because it's the most negative video you did on your channel.
I know. That's so funny. I try to be so positive, but it was such a disappointment that the reason I'll try and keep it short. The reason Neal Adams made such an impact back when he first showed up in DC around 68 was because his illustrations were so realistic compared to everything. He was quoted as saying, if superheroes really existed, this is what they would look like. And his original artwork was astonishing and transforming. And there were just, the regular at the time period, the regular colors. He somehow got them to let him re-ink and garishly recolor everything so that it looks like it's completely modern. And I say this with peace and love, but I don't think when he re-inked it, he was at the peak of his talent level that he was when he was a young man. And so I think you need the originals in the original art and the original inks to show the impact of how it changed comics.
Yeah.
And you can see it in the Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Absolute, where it's just unaltered, and it's brilliant looking, and you can see how striking and groundbreaking it was at the time. And it's just kind of all washed away with this with the re-inking and the awful colors that he was allowed to do. And then, of course, the omnibus also includes Batman Odyssey. Ooh. And I would not wish that on anyone. And I am a huge Neal Adams fan, but as a writer, he is an incredibly good artist.
That's like the you have a face for radio.
Yeah.
But one thing I would like to say about Jess's video that he has, which is what makes it great, is that he actually has some of the original issues that he does comparisons of in that video.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thanks. I forgot about that. Yeah.
It's not just going on a rant. He does have evidence.
Right.
I do have source material.
You can actually see the comparison between what made it great and then what changed.
Yes,
Do you think it bothers you more because it's nostalgic for you? Kind of like the recoloring of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing bothered a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the absolute format. So for me, I thought this isn't the way that I remember scenes playing out. And I particularly remember things like the bar scene. Like the bar scene looks so different in the Absolute Edition that I was like, wait, have I read this before? And then that's why I kept the hardcovers, because they have the original, or I'm sorry, as close as you are to come to the original colors, Tatiana Wood's colors, than the new edition. So,
and I felt like the recoloring took away of Swamp Thing. I didn't get it because I felt like the recoloring took away from the atmospheric quality of the originals. It made it so much brighter when it was a murky, swampy book. That was my only concern with that. But
I think for new readers, though, I don't think it's an issue, because I mean, Neil Gaiman has gone ahead and recolored, like, I think by now, the entirety of Sandman, all 75 issues. And the only way to get the truest to the original colors is to have what's known as the Rainbow Edition, the hardcovers that my wife keeps in her classroom. And I'm like, bring those back home. Dang it. Yeah, so I was wondering if it's more of a nostalgia thing. That's why it made you so mad. Or did you see somebody new that has never read any Neal Adams actually reading that and being like, oh, this is a pretty cool art and really cool story?
That's a fair question. I could be looking backwards on it. I always feel like if we get like a Batman Silver Age slash Bronze Age omnibus for the period of 68 through 74, it'll include the sort of Batman 66 nuttiness that we were putting up with for a while. And then it dramatically shifts. Even World's Finest at that time had him doing the covers and the interiors. And it would be a good comparison for the modern reader to see what we were reading at the time, and then how in Batman it dramatically shifted with those Denny O'Neil issues, with his original artwork. It could be nostalgia, but I also think the modern reader could benefit from not only seeing those great stories, but just see how really revolutionary the Denny O'Neil and Neal Adams run was, because it's not like it built up to it. It just went right into something that became known as, I think, was sort of the origins of the Dark Knight kind of vibe that we get. So it could be nostalgia, but I always think people would benefit from seeing just what a change he brought to DC.
I agree.
Yeah.
What's
I would also be fascinated, not that I'll ever see them, to see a breakdown of like, how many new readers are we talking about here? I mean, what percentage of, quote, new readers are paying terrorist hostage money for, these Absolute editions in the first place? Can there be that many newbies in the mix? That's always a curious question there.
Well, I mean, if you think about somebody that used to collect this stuff and they're like, oh man, I really liked Batman, or maybe they just found out about collected editions, and I see this comic all the time, and now they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and making pretty decent money, and they're like, I want to go and relive my childhood. Plus, my eyesight isn't what it used to be. You're telling me I can go back and read the comics I used to read in a bigger format? Absolutely. Hell yeah.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I would just be curious to know what percentage of what you just described we're talking about versus the hardcore faithful.
Oh, I mean, if I was able to gather that information, that could be worth thousands of dollars to companies. Like, exactly how many new readers do you see every year?
To that point, all these companies that keep recoloring things for a modern audience, are they just wasting time and money rather than just printing it as it originally was, which is what the majority of the readers want anyways, because the majority of the readers buying it will be.
Exactly.
But I mean, if it's up to the creator, who are we to argue with George Lucas over Star Wars Special Edition? Right?
Oh boy.
I went there. All right, let's keep
I'm
going.
shot first.
That's always on my mind too. Yeah.
Fan- I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Sorry.
Domar's trying
yes.
not to choose violence right now.
Nightfall Omnibus Volume 2, Nightfall Omnibus Volume 3. Those are the ones that I get asked about often because Volume 1 was printed in the new paper stock, and it is significantly thinner than the original printing of Nightfall. I kept the new printing, and I gave away my old printing because I like to save room on my shelf to put as many books up there as I possibly can. Same paper stock. Batman Family Omnibus. When you talk about this, Taylor.
I wasn't going to put Omnibus. I mean, come on.
Volume 1 and 2. David B. Gabriel better not be watching this. Batwoman by J.H. Williams is out of print. Oh, man, that's such a good book.
Really?
Harley Quinn by Connor Palmiotti. Volumes 1, 2, and 3 are out of print. That's a surprise, too.
3's been out of print for a while and is getting real money on online.
So is the Joker Bronze Age.
3,
That's the Rebirth stuff.
They messed up on 3. I don't know whose job it was, but they solicited as having the who's the Frank Terry's stuff in there. And
they did?
the catalog and the solicit had it.
Oh, that's the Rebirth stuff. Okay.
Yeah, dude. No, well, in the freak, in the fine print where you're like, this book collects, not in the back, not on the dust jacket, but the actual printing of the book, it states that it still collects those issues, and they're not in there.
In the edition?
That's why I kept my Harley Quinn Volume 3 oversized hardcover from the Rebirth era, because it has that stuff, and the Omnibus doesn't.
Yeah, there were three or four oversized hardcovers. I think 3. That's what I kept too.
3 from the Rebirth, and I kept.
That's what I kept too.
The Omnibus, when I got it, I was like, "Oh, what?" It wasn't as bad as like 100 Bullets, wherever they, like to the day that I got it, we all thought Brother Lono was gonna be in there, and then I opened it up, and I'm like, Drew dropped an F-bomb, and I was like, "How do I make a video like this and stay neutral?" But make people aware that the book that we were supposed to have in there is not in there. But
it was a real got your nose moment. Yeah.
Joker Bronze Age Omnibus is out of print. That one goes for a lot of money, you said, Jess?
I did, but yeah.
Taylor.
And I don't know if that's like a small audience, small amount of people want it, so that's why it goes for high prices, but probably.
Nightwing for the longest time.
People have wanted the new 52 stuff back in print, and it's the only Nightwing,
it's the only Nightwing Omnibus we have. You're right, it is. This is the Kyle Higgins stuff right before the Grayson Omnibus, which I guess you could consider a Nightwing Omnibus, but it's so different.
It's a Nightwing Omnibus, but yes,
it's a Dick Grayson Omnibus.
Yeah.
Red Hood and the Outlaws New 52. I remember when that went out of print, and I remember thinking, "Oh, I wonder if we'll get a volume 2." And Bar's petitioning and begging people, but people can feel like they can vote for whatever they want. You don't have those, Bar? Fake fan. Fake fan.
I'm with you, Bar.
DC Universe Omnis. Oh, the Rebirth Omnibus. Let me explain what this is. The New 52 Omnibus, the 52 Villains Omnibus, 52 Zero Omnibus, and Futures End Omnibus. 5 years later, 5 years later made it there? That's not Legion. I'm sorry, that's not Legion. Okay. The Rebirth Omnibus is every Rebirth issue from the Rebirth line. So it's the number ones, the one-shots.
Are we for this poll, are we talking about because there's 2 versions of it. There's the original, and then there's the expanded one where it has all of the other Rebirth one-shots.
I assume it'd be the expanded. They're both out of print.
Which one is out of print?
I think they're both out of print. I think it would be the expanded one, though.
Okay, so if you like a taste, and I mean a small taste as to what these titles were like, that's what these Omnis are.
This is including like the Marvel Now Omnibus.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. It was like the Marvel Now Omnibus. They released these books. I don't know if that's what people like, but I do want to make people aware. The same thing with the New 52. All 52 number 1 issues were included in this omnibus. So you get it is the only way to get Frankenstein, Agent of Shade in there in an oversized format. But It's just the number 1 issues. So it's like a sampler book.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind. The 52 Villains Omnibus, that one is a little bit different because it was like the 0.1 issues, 0.2 issues, 0.3 issues of ongoing series. Like, for example,
it was all the villain one-shots that they put into one giant omnibus, and you can read it there. And some of them are left out of like the creator / own time, like Justice League,
like Jeff
52.
Johns. Yeah, Jeff Johns, Green Lantern.
They did have those cool lenticular covers.
Only in the first printing. I remember they said they were only going to do it in the first. So if they reprinted, they probably won't. That is one of the coolest gimmicky covers on an omnibus.
Yeah,
these are not going for huge money on the secondary market by and large,
but they are out of print.
No, they should be on the list, and like there might still be people who want to buy them from a comic book store.
Absolutely.
They're not hard to get a hold of, and that might just indicate that demand is not riotous for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, people can vote for whatever they want to.
Sure, of course.
I'm just making them aware of what these are.
Yeah.
The Zero Omnibus is very similar to the 52 Omnibus. I remember at one time I was joking. I was like, oh, I wonder if they're going to do a volume 2 to the new 52 Omnibus and a volume 3 to give us all the number 2s and number 3s. That's an odd way to it's like going to your comic book store every month and just picking up all the titles, and then it gets significantly smaller and smaller because they keep canceling them.
The House of X era trade paperbacks, but in omnibus form.
Yeah, but I mean, those are different though, because remember they were mapped different. Sometimes they were mapped by different story arcs. So it was like issues like 4 and 5 were together of X-Force and Wolverine like 1. This was like strictly just every single number 1 issue.
And every 0 issue.
Future's End was one that came and went too. I can't
Yeah.
That was the 5 years later omnibus. There are stories in here. Yeah, there were stories in here from like Jeff Johns, right? Scott Snyder writing some of the stories in here.
Kind of reminds me of like DC 1 Million.
Yeah. Possible futures.
I like DC 1 Million though. I did not care for Futures End.
I mean,
that's just the point I was making, Chris.
Well, I can't necessarily say you're wrong, but
it's very sweet from DJ saying, if I get a terminal illness, Bar can have his volumes 2 and 3.
So
Bar don't get any ideas.
So no need to vote for him, right?
I know that Maddie absolutely loves Future's End. I know that she loves it. It's very hit and miss. DC 1 Million, the event itself was good, and some issues like Starman were good, but others were just like, what is this even doing?
It was uneven to say the least.
Yeah, that's true.
Deathstroke Omnis. Wow, there's like enough
There's
for
a whole
a category.
Two of them.
We are getting a third Deathstroke Omnibus this year, though.
That's right, the Mark Wolfman stuff, baby. That's right. New 52 Omni.
It's a Tony S. Daniel run.
Yes. It's not the Rob Liefeld stuff. It's a Tony S. Danielle stuff. And then Christopher Priest Omnibus, which is phenomenal if you haven't had a chance to read it. Both are out of print now. Dang. So the main Future's End Omni, which is why Maddie loves it, is more focused on Batman Beyond. So Kane loves it for that. Oh yes, I do, Hamza. Me and you are the only two idiots that are going to buy Armageddon 2001 Omni. Oh, dude, you know what I want? I want both endings in there too. I can choose my own adventure. Go to page 45 if you want this ending.
Yeah.
Now, dude, that's so gimmicky. I would love it. But yes, if you haven't had a chance to read Christopher Priest, I think that one you can still find
that one. Yeah,
but it is out of print.
You can get it for slightly below retail. I'm a huge Christopher Priest fan. I don't follow Deathstroke very often, but I ate this up with a spoon. It was absolutely fantastic.
It was good.
I agree. It
was good.
Yeah.
Okay, there's 4 of us. Oh yeah.
Well, they almost have enough for a posse.
Well, you make sure you come. Let me tell you. You make sure you come back on April. When are we doing? When are me and Peter kicking this off? May 19th at 2:30 p.m. We're gonna kick off DC's Most Wanted. Knock on wood. That's a tentative date. I probably shouldn't have said anything.
They're gonna be a 20 hours.
We gotta build out the list first. I'm gonna put 2001 at the very top so everybody can go and vote for it because they can't get to the bottom. All right, James Rhodes, you're off the list.
Party pooper.
All right, let's keep going. Doom Patrol Omnis. There's quite a few of these that are out of print. Silver Age, Bronze Age, and the John Byrne era, which spun out of the Justice League series that him and Claremont were working on.
The Grant Morrison one, they seem to commit to keeping in print more readily.
And we almost have the entirety of Doom Patrol's history in omnibus format. There's like 2 runs we're missing.
Crazy.
We need the Arcudi run and the Giffen run.
Right, and those are smaller runs.
So the Rachel Pollack run is still in print, Taylor?
It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that run is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a good run. It's a good run.
But the Silver Age run, though, I will say, and this was per Jess's recommendation through his YouTube video when I first was going on Comics YouTube, that Silver Age Omnibus is a lot of fun. If you want to try out Silver Age DC, I recommend that one because it does have a little bit more Marvel-likeness to it, where it's like very flawed characters and they're just weird. Like if you think like you love the weirdness of like Grant Morrison and stuff, and you want some like Silver Age kind of sanitized weirdness, it's still very weird.
Well, I think that's why Morrison was drawn to it.
Right.
It's like, oh, this is weird.
I mean, these were the comics that Morrison grew up on. Yeah, he loved DC Silver Age, or they loved DC Silver Age. I'm sorry, and they were reading Doom Patrol Silver Age, and I think that's what inspired the run on the later run. But I love Doom Patrol. Period. I love all these runs. I will say John Byrne, the omnibus, is probably my least favorite.
Yes, this is the point where John Byrne has gone off the boil. Clearly.
Well, and also John Byrne has kind of ignored. John Byrne kind of has ignored all the weirdness of Doom Patrol and it's made like a straight superhero comic. So it's more like
it's
more like X-Men Light to me.
It was a below average meat and potatoes superhero comic.
Yeah, the artwork is still good though. Like it's still good John Byrne artwork, but
it's really weird.
Well, it's
John Byrne isn't even labeled an omnibus or an absolute.
Right. It was originally solicited as an omnibus, but it doesn't actually say omnibus anywhere on the book.
I don't think it is. The John Byrne art here it's decent in absolute terms, but John Byrne is nowhere near himself.
Oh no! Like it's not. Near. But it's like
I think there was a big change in John Byrne's art between She-Hulk and X-Men. Right, X-Men is when he started. I'm going to ink myself. I'm going to add a lot more scribbles. I have a lot of freedom over here. I don't have an editor like breathing down my neck. I can do whatever I want to, and that is the style. And I'm not an artist. Maybe it's what he chose because it's faster.
It's by far not John Byrne's best artwork of his career, but I don't know that John Byrne's ever drawn a bad-looking comic. So it still looks good, but it's not.
I actually agree with Taylor. I don't think he has either. I really like John Byrne's art.
It's the later stuff though. You do kind of look at it and go, this isn't very good. It's not actively bad, but it's not very good. It just isn't. Next Men is probably perhaps the last line where it's like, yeah, he's changing his style, but it's still really respectable. Yeah. After that, pretty rapidly, it's like he's just not very good.
To me, it's more of like John Byrne had a peak that was higher than most people.
Yeah,
so even like his not so great stuff is still better than a lot of other people.
I mean, I've got printed versions of his Elsewhere, right? I could show you guys. I have a custom omnibus of that, and his art, like even though he dropped it because it's John Byrne, he can drop whatever he wants to, and it was a fanfic anyway. Is so freaking cool to see just in black and white, like to appreciate it. I'm with Taylor. I don't think he's ever drawn a bad comic. He might be a jerk, but you know what?
He's just a cranky old man, and probably why he got like everyone leaving him alone because they just didn't want to deal with him.
Well,
I'm pretty positive about that. Having met him a couple of times, he was an angry old man before he was an old man. Like, he was.
Wow.
Well, Flash
has and that's what happens in life, right? Like the older you get, the more like yourself you become. And if he was an angry old man in his 40s, then he's definitely going to be an angrier old man.
True.
In his older age. Flash, Silver Age Omnis 1, 2, and 3. I'll be honest with you, Taylor. Until I saw the list, I didn't know there were 3. I thought there were only 2 Flash Silver Age.
Oh, they're so good.
They're so good. But Flash has had a lot of good representation in omnibuses, like all across the board. But this stuff, I feel like it's ignored by some fans, and it's good stuff. Again, if you're a fan of like Marvel Silver Age, I think you would get into this. Great artwork by Carmine Infantino, and it has a little bit more of a flawed characters aspect to it, like you would from Marvel characters. And I will say that the Rogues Gallery of Flash, I put up there with like Spider-Man, Batman is one of the best Rogues Galleries.
Yeah,
all those characters get introduced in these omnibuses.
Well, I mean, I would agree with you on that. I'm not a huge fan of the Silver Age, but I would say what defines the Silver Age for DC are two characters, Green Lantern and Flash, particularly
Yeah.
Flash.
I agree with that. I have a quick question for Taylor. I know you've asked me to do overviews of these 3 books, and I really want to, but I've been hesitant since they're out of print. Is it more important to get the information out there, even if you can't get the books, or should I wait until these come back in print?
I have 2 cents to add to that after Taylor.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as
Me
YouTube
too.
content goes, I hate when people are like, "Don't make a video about something that's out of print." Like, I want to know cool books. You show me cool books, and then I can put those on my radar for me to hunt for. Because I know you had like backlash when you showed off like Usagi Yojimbo hardcovers or something.
That was
Like,
accidental
they're so
too.
Asinine to me. Like,
Somebody got mad at me.
yeah, that's so asinine to me. Like, yes, they're out of print, but that's not. I'm not showing it off, bragging about it. I'm just showing you cool books to go hunt for.
Yeah.
I do reading orders on the channel, and I always tell people some of these are out of print. Like I just did Transformers. Like 90% of the books I showed were out of print and are out of print, and they're expensive to get. But we have a new license holder that could reprint them with Hasbro. Silver Age Flash is one of their books that they're coming out with the DC Finest.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think it's good to show what these books are like, what the artwork is like. That way, in case somebody is like, "Oh, the DC's Finest volume, the Flash volume is the Silver Age." If they go on YouTube and see what the art is like, they're gonna like, "Oh God, no," or "Oh my God, yeah, this is cool."
Okay.
That's the way I see it. There's different formats out there.
And also, they can find it on the app, the DC app. Like, if you're showing off cool comics, if they feel like they're interested in it, there's ways to find these comics.
Be like, no matter what, people are you're always gonna find people that are negative about your videos, no matter what you do.
Yeah. That's
Right? You can't please everybody, so you make videos that make you happy too.
Yeah.
And
no,
if talking about the freaking Silver Age, boring ass Flash makes you happy, Jess, you talk about
Your mouth.
You need to go.
Can you guys just get a picture of this? He just said that while he has Batman Year 2 above his right shoulder.
That is a masterpiece. It's signed. It's signed by Alan Davis.
They may not rush to reprint. You need to go ahead and make your videos based on what you need to make. They may not rush to reprint this because they're not actually rushing to reprint a lot of the Silver Age omnibuses, and they are funneling this into DC's Finest. I mean, they may content themselves by just funneling the material into DC's Finest for a while. So
They did reprint the first volume so far of Green Lantern Silver Age with better mapping.
true. Yeah, although part of that was to improve it, if I recall. It was,
Yeah.
yeah.
That reprint though, they already approved it. Like that was like the third printing. Like they did like the crappy mapping, and then they reprinted the silver spine one, and then when they reprinted it, they just reprinted that one. So they already fixed it. Like the most recent Green Lantern reprinting was just a straight reprint.
So
I'm gonna mention something. So DJ is the gentleman that said, or lady, I assume it's a gentleman, but that said that Bart could have his or her comics when he died, and this goes to show you that Batman Year 2 fan club members are good people. That's all I'm saying.
Wow.
Throw that out there.
That was a stretch of elongated man proportions.
I should have been a lawyer. DC Horror Omnis. House of Mystery, volumes 1 and 2. These, I love this stuff. This is my jam right here.
Yeah.
I can't believe they let these go out of print. But when they bring them back to print, can we get some matching dust jackets, please? Because that would be great.
Yeah.
Because they changed the dust jacket designs for the third volume, and they do not match the first 2 at all. It's not just like the font like Marvel. It is the entire design of the dust jacket.
They went with like a similar design of what the new Silver Age spines are looking like.
And I dig it. It's just that
it doesn't match.
They look like.
Do you want me to show you what he's talking about right here?
Yeah,
show
mine are
it
over
off.
there. If you got yours.
Talking about this. Volumes 1 and 2.
Those look like completely different books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those don't even look like the same line, but they decided to change them. Phenomenal stories in here. They're all anthologies. I actually, the first time I ever read them were in the showcase format because these weren't available in print in any kind of collected edition. So I ended up getting them in showcase in black and white. And then when they announced the Omnis with the colors, I was like, yes. Because my first time reading about Cain and Abel with I'm sure a lot of other people that are my age was Sandman. Like I didn't grow up with House of Mystery and House of Secrets, but the 2 characters, Cain and Abel, show up in Sandman. And then when I found out that they were like the Crypt Keepers, like,
That's what I was gonna say. Is like
of the House of Mystery and House of Secrets. One brother's in the House of Secrets, one brother's got the House of Mystery. I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta read this. So
if you're a fan of EC Comics or Creepy and Eerie magazine, like this is definitely your jam.
It is.
It's not as it's not as good. I'll be honest. Just being honest, not as good as
the same thing.
Yeah,
They're affected by the code.
If this is what you want, please vote for it. I would not hold my breath on reprints on these, just because I can't fathom there's that many warm bodies who actually want. No, I'm sorry.
Lars, don't be a negative Nancy.
I'm not. I'm trying to be a pragmatist.
He's the Norwegian negativity over here.
I'm trying to be a pragmatist. Well, at this point, like the Wrath of the Spectre Omnibus, I think people just feel grateful and lucky to have gotten it the first time.
That's true.
You know.
Same with Dead Man. That's got Neal Adams' original.
And that at least has Neal Adams with it. Yeah.
And he actually.
You know what? I think there is a demand, though. I think and that's why we do these polls, right? Things always surprise me. Like Tomb of Dracula making it in the top 20 this year. Not only the top 20, but like the top 2 and 3 spot at Marvel. Mm-hmm. That's saying, holy crap, that is a lot of people.
One thing I do want to clarify. So the Swamp Thing Bronze Age Omnibus, that has the entirety of all the Swamp Thing stories you want before Alan Moore. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking for all the stuff before Alan Moore, that includes everything.
It's got the Bernie
Absolute Edition. The Absolute Edition only collects the Bernie Wrightson stuff. So it stops at a certain point. This omnibus does have more material, but I'll say that the Bernie Wrightson stuff pretty much is the only stuff, in my opinion, that you need. And also that was restored by Jose Villarrobia, and the restoration on that is absolutely beautiful. So it looks a lot better than the artwork in the Bronze Age Omnibus. So I just want to.
And
Go ahead, Jess.
Oh no, I was just going to say for Dead Man, Adams didn't write the first issue, or it was illustrated by Carmine Infantino when it was. It was first in whatever it was 207. I can't think of what the comic was. Strange. Okay, the point is
205.
What was it?
Strange Adventures 205.
Strange Adventures 205. And Neal Adams actually took over the writing, but he actually, I felt, that's why I was so disappointed in Odyssey. He wrote Dead Man actually really well. I found it compelling. His issues were actually fairly compelling writing that I thought were exciting, and it was a weird, odd character, sort of in the same vein as the weirdness of Doom Patrol, that they had this ghost that has ended up lasting all up until right now and been part of the DC universe. So I will give his writing props on this. It was actually really fun to read as a kid and as an adult.
I agree.
Some people are asking
on here, the House of Secrets,
right here.
That was it was a Vertigo book. You've got it. Here,
I got it. I got it right here. It's on my shelf.
Hold on a second.
It's the Steven Seagal, Teddy Christensen House of Secrets that they did with Vertigo, which came later, and it's wonderful, by the way.
Yeah,
it's so good. There may or may not be. It was a Curious Rights situation, and I don't know if they've not reprinted it just for sales or just because of the rights situation. But it is great.
They are a very great combo of a writer and artist.
It is a tremendous. Only ruined slightly by the fact that for some baffling reason they put the stories in here in chronological order rather than publication order, and that does make a mess of it. So the map. Every time I read it, I put sticky notes to read it in the publication order because it just makes more sense that way. But it's a great series. Yeah, it's really
in my humble opinion, Bronze Age Swamp Thing is missing some issues for some reason. Were included in the second of 3 Bronze Age trade paperbacks. Interesting. Thank you for that. Jack Kirby.
Whoa. Of course, I had to give him his own slide.
Who?
Boy, Jess is really trying to make Taylor go. You want him to drop an F-bomb on the stream? Who's this guy, Taylor?
He's the king of comics. There is no one that's even come close to him.
Oh, not Osamu Tezuka. Not Osamu Tezuka. Okay, interesting. He's the god of comics. Jack Kirby's the king. Osamu Tezuka is the god of comics. So I guess that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry, I think Kirby's created more relevant characters still today than Tezuka.
More than Astro Boy. Interesting.
That's one character. That's one character.
And Kimba the White Lion that Disney ripped off to make the Lion King. Interesting.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, the Lion King's more popular than that. Right?
We're gonna have this fight on the air. All right.
I love it.
And hey, for the record, I love Tezuka, but
Go ahead.
there's only one king of comics. Anyway, DC has done a great job of collecting this material. Jack Kirby, when he left Marvel, he created all the greatness that he did in the Silver Age. Then he left for DC Comics in the 70s. The 70s, I think, is the best decade of Kirby stories. And this is where we get Commandy, the Last Boy on Earth, collects all the entirety of Jack Kirby's run. And then the DC Universe, the Bronze Age. This is a great omnibus because it collects all the like really fun stuff that he did besides the Fourth World and besides Commandy. This one has like OMAC in there, the Demon, has some of the, like the smaller stuff that he did as well. And these two omnibus have great spines that match up with the Fourth World omnibus as well. But yeah, he's a king of comics. Everyone should be seeking these out.
Yeah,
I love Commandy. It's very very Planet of the Apes because Kirby can do Planet of the Apes. He got
and I really love DC Universe. It's got so many fun stories in there.
I actually really love Commandy. Commandy is kind of a book for people who aren't necessarily into Kirby.
Yes, that is so true.
It's very, a self-contained work, not integrated into DC. And it's really good.
I'm sorry, there's people that aren't into Kirby? I don't understand.
That would be me, yeah.
Oh!
Somebody on this panel.
We got to keep moving. I don't have time for people to argue over Kirby.
You started it.
Justice League of America, Silver Age 1 and 2, Bronze Age 1, 2, and 3, and dang it, I missed out on the Detroit era because I kept going on the fence about it. I was like, should I not? It's technically post-crisis, pre-crisis, damn it, and then it was gone.
Yeah.
It's got a beautiful dust jacket though.
It does. I love the design.
Again, Bronze Age Omnibus 4 is surely one of the most coveted
it is
missing ones.
People really want that.
I would definitely buy that one. Yeah.
I used to have Justice League Silver Age Volume 1, and I had Justice League Bronze Age 1, and I sold them many, many years ago. I think I picked up Justice League Bronze Age 3 to do an overview of it, and that one that has Jim Apparo's artwork in there too, I think. But these didn't really captivate me as much as I thought they were going to. Silver Age and Bronze Age DC is a lot different than Marvel Silver Age and Bronze Age.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but Bronze Age Volume 3, I was reading those in floppies at the time, and that's when I decided to take a break from comics for 10 years.
Well,
that was just me. I mean,
that's your onslaught.
My onslaught. Yeah, the JLA Volume 3. I 1 and 2 I dig, and 1 and 2 of Silver Age, of course, I dig, but I don't know. The Volume 3 that's when I decided to take a break.
Well,
so do you own those now?
In this era, every issue, like every 1 or 2 issues being a different story, makes it very accessible, but can also make it very repetitive. You'll say, oh, well, here's another story. Here's another story. Here's another story. If they would do Volume 4, Volume 4's got some great George Perez art, and I think does elevate it some. But yeah.
Would that be the reading order then? Just to clarify, would it be Bronze Age Volume 4, Detroit era, then JLI?
Yes. Yeah.
Like there's no gaps between those. What I mean, I know 4 doesn't exist, but it'd be like there's no gaps there.
Then if they would do Volume 4,
Detroit era leads into JLI.
If they would do Volume 4, everything would be filled in to the end of JLI.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what wasn't on the list? The Fourth World. That's right, because nobody's buying it, so it's still in print.
Oh,
it just got reprinted.
It just got reprinted.
Gosh, you can't set yourself off like that, man. Like that's dangling fruit. Legion of Superheroes Omni.
Yay! Guessing there's
all right.
Well, no,
here's your moment to shine, Lars and Jazz.
Hey, this is something that I agree with Lars on. I'm a big Legion fan as well.
Yeah.
Oh, you just skipped it.
All right, Lars, take it away.
Well, there it is. Silver Age Omnibus 1, Silver Age Omnibus 2. 5 years later, again, the thing about Legion is that I love Legion. I think it's tremendous. It doesn't seem to sell all that great. So I don't know if we will get a 5 years later omnibus. Again, the bigger shame is that so much of the 80s run between those two, between the Silver Age and the 5 years later, has not been collected at all. So that's the one that really makes you drool, because I did get 5 years later the first time through.
The hard thing about Legion is just it's definitely worse than trying to figure out Supergirl's origin, but it's, where do you start? Because it's been so many different kind of small retcons here or there. It's a hard jumping on point.
Well, yeah, there really aren't a huge amount of retcons until like toward you get 5 years later.
Yeah.
After that, it starts to get nightmarish. You're right. But that's
Even within the first omnibus, there's a big retcon.
Well,
of
yeah.
superheroes.
People talk about Legion being confusing, which it is, but not for the reasons they usually cite. They usually say Legion's confusing because there's so many characters. Well, yeah, but each issue only focuses on like 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah, that's
I mean, and also it is not hard to work out these characters. Lightning Lad projects lightning. Bouncing Boy bounces.
Wait a minute. There's a bouncing boy. What does he do?
He bounces. I mean,
produces
there are
pineapples.
There are
Matter Eater Lad. What does that guy do?
Yeah, Matter Lad.
He bounces bad checks.
Yeah, there are clues in the names. I started reading
Deadbeat.
Legion. I started reading Legion 25 years into the process, and you just accept that you don't know every single character, what's up with them, but it is not confusing. What is confusing is all the reboots. The incessant rebooting really has kind of polluted it in terms of what's going on where.
I love it.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, as another resident Legion fan, the big cast of characters is what I love about it. And the fact that it almost exists as its own little pocket universe within DC, I think makes it accessible for me as like a newer Legion fan, that like I was able to jump in without having to worry about all this other DC continuity and just kind of like really enjoy it. So yes, there are a lot of reboots and stuff, but like I think the cast of characters is fun to me. Like I love learning about all these different characters.
It is, although I think where the Bendis run went awry was that it made the mistake of thinking that the appeal of Legion is this enormous cast. It's like, no, you're wrong. The appeal is the amazing stories you can tell with that cast.
Yeah.
And Brian Michael Bendis didn't have a story he wanted to tell, and just going, here's a whole bunch of characters isn't enough. When Legion in the 70s and 80s in particular, there was some tremendous stories being done there.
This is why one day when Jonathan Hickman finally goes over and tells his Legion story, it's going to be amazing. For Legion superhero fans, it's going to be amazing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Let's hog tie Jonathan Hickman into a chair, leave his hands free, and make him write Legion of Superheroes. Yeah.
Wow. Has he said he wants to do that?
Yeah, no, Hoxpox was originally going to be a Legion superhero story. You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, he originally was going to do a Legion superhero story for DC, but then something fell through, and then he went to Marvel and transformed it into Hoxpox.
Yeah, X-Men probably paid better too, but yeah,
well, probably.
I would love to see that though. If ever he would do it, I would love to see it.
I really liked what Jeff Johns said with Legion of Three Worlds. I thought that both clarified a lot of things that were wrong with the Legion, as Lars talked about, and kind of set what was supposed to be the future of the Legion. I got in the Legion with Mark Waid's run because I could not get into it in the 90s. I read the Great Darkness saga when I was young, and I thought it was just okay, but that's because the trade paperback back then spoiled what the Great Darkness saga was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I mean, seriously, what the hell? Like, why would you do that?
No,
and they still print it with that cover. And yeah, it just got to be too confusing. There was Legionnaires, and I just did not care. Anytime there was a crossover, I was like, I don't care about any of these characters.
Well, yeah, it was two titles interlinked. There was 2 Legion teams. That was getting to be a bit much, and
But I did like Mark Waid's run. Like,
Mark Waid's run was very good.
And then, what was it? Jim Shooter came back, and his run was just okay.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Volume 2 there has been out of print for a really long time of the Silver Age, and that's where Jim Shooter was writing stories when he was like 13 years old.
Yeah.
He was crazy.
2 is going for pretty high money after this point. Well, 5 years later is going for like $300.
And also, I do find it funny, Omar, you're saying that there's too many spin-off titles and concurrent titles. Like, you're the X-Men guy.
There's a big difference in having a Wolverine title and then having Legionnaires that have the same characters, but they come from different timelines.
Yes.
It's like, it would be like getting into X-Men during that era of X-Men when Greg Pak was writing, what was it? Was it Astonishing X-Men? He had a series where he had like a Wolverine from a possible future. We had Old Man Logan hanging out. Coming into X-Men during that time is probably the worst time to get into X-Men because there's too many timelines. which one's Wolverine? Oh, the real Wolverine is dead. It's not this chick. It's not this old man. It's not this other dude that's banging Hercules. What's going on? Like, I would be so confused. Like, that was Legion of Superheroes to me in the 90s.
Yeah, no, I understand. It was too much. Yeah,
I actually see you, David Young. Yes. Choose your words wisely.
I also hate interrupting, but I do unfortunately have to go. But thank you.
Wait, you have a basketball game?
Disc
I do.
You do have a basketball game. I knew it.
You got up super early to come in and hang out with us. Thank you, Dom, for being here, buddy.
Yeah, good to see you, Dom.
Of course.
Good to see you, buddy.
See you, Dom.
Have a great stream, everybody.
All right, let's keep going with the miscellaneous stuff.
So these are all the ones that only have one title to them.
Adam Strange, which is only one title that you need, right? Green Arrow, Golden Age, Green Lantern, Silver Age Omnibus Volume 2, Suicide Squad. I could tell why you didn't have a Green Lantern category because most of his books are in print, and they just reprinted, like Jess said, the first one of the Silver Age. The Authority Omnibus, Hawkman Omnibus, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Darkseid, War. We'll talk about that one here in a second. Orion by Walter Simonson, Just Imagine Stan Lee creating the DC Universe, and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
And that last one there, just to clarify, includes all three of the what was in the Absolutes Volume 1, 2, and Black Dossier. They're all in that one omnibus.
Mm-hmm. I will say the Darkseid War, that's been collected in Omnibus Volume 2 of the Justice League by Jeff Johns Omni. But if you want to vote for it, hey, and you just want
that's kind of like the people that want just the event sometimes, you know?
Yeah, that's fine. But the entirety of this omnibus has been collected in Justice League by Jeff Johns Omnibus Volume 2. Adam Strange, it's only one Omni, right, Jess? One Omni.
It's got all the Carmine Infantino stuff.
And Green Arrow, I don't know much about Green Arrow Gold. That's one I never got. That only had one omnibus. There wasn't enough material for a volume 2 of Golden Age Green Arrow.
There never was a volume 2. I don't know if there's a material. Well, I don't think the Jack Kirby stuff was included in there.
Okay.
And he only did a few issues, I think, back in the Golden Age. But
Suicide Squad, Silver Age Omni. That's probably one that.
I think that's like the Devil Dinosaur of DC Omnis.
Yeah,
well, that one has been.
Thin.
That one's the one that people are like, oh my god, I'm finding Omnis at Ollie's, and it might still be there. I don't know. You can look, but it is out of print. The Authority Omnibus collects both of the Absolute editions together, and it has actually more things than the Absolute editions.
I could see
Hawkman Omni is the only Jeff Johns Omnibus we don't have back in print. They have reprinted everything else Jeff Johns has done. And this is one for being notorious for being a freaking mousetrap. If you it has horrible binding. So I'm hoping that if they do reprint it, you know, they give us better. Well, I mean, it will have to have better binding. But yeah, I find it odd that it is the only Jeff Johns book that has not been reprinted. Everything else Jeff Johns has written at DC has been reprinted in omnibus format. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe is freaking awesome. I love that book. It's very Conan-like. It takes the characters you know from the TV show and puts them in a whole different universe. You don't even need that much.
Sorry. Do you know if DC has the rights to reprint that?
Well, Dark Horse is doing their own comic, but it's based on the Kevin Smith stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really weird because like the comic strips were printed by Dark Horse, but DC could still print the comics with the new material. Who was it? Was it Devil's Due that had the rights for a while? Image. Yeah, I don't at this point I don't know. Orion by Walter Simonson, featuring the character from Jack Kirby's
I love that
run.
cover of that Omni. That is
yeah,
a great
it's very.
cover.
I mean, you could tell Simonson really drew heavy from Kirby. Like
the whole run has great artwork by Simonson.
Did they finally re-release that with better mapping? I recall when it came out that
not as an omnibus, but the paperbacks have better mapping.
Okay,
there's two.
I remember Walt being slightly unhappy because the backup stories weren't in the order they should have been.
Right, the two thick trade paperbacks map it the way Simonson wanted to.
Okay.
Oh gosh, I'd love a Hawkman Omnibus Volume 2. I love the Vendetti stuff, but that will be on our
Vendetti stuff. Yeah,
most wanted DC Omnis, which we're
just imagine Stan Lee though. That was Stan Lee in the late '90s, early 2000s, I think, going back and rewriting the origins for all the DC characters, and he even gave them like alliterative names like Wayne. I think it's like William Wayne instead of Bruce Wayne.
Yes, wow.
And Stan Lee may or may not have actually written those stories.
Yes, I was saying Stan Lee or people pretend to be him. Yes.
They have one guy named Stan and another guy named Lee, so we can come out it as the Stan Lee.
Yeah, there's the long rumor that he would like be in the meeting and be like, "Oh yeah, so Wayne William, Batman, yeah, so we're done here, right?" And then
print it.
It was Marvel method to like the nth degree.
This is also during the time when he was writing Ultimo. Does anybody remember that?
Oh yes.
Ultimo was the manga that he was writing.
Oh,
and I was like, Stan Lee's writing manga, and I went to read it. And I I was like, this is
He's
not
young and
him.
hip. Yeah.
It was pretty much the same thing. He went to a pitch meeting. Somebody said, "What do you think of Ultimo?" "Yeah, sounds great."
Give me my check.
Give me my check. Print it.
And they were like, no notes. And then they went to.
No, he was a fan of Japanese stuff. Like he's the guy that wanted to bring the Sentai over to America many years before the power.
right.
Yeah.
That's true.
But it just didn't happen. And then Lee, which we talked about. So Super Family Omnis, Supergirl, the 2 Silver Age, and Superman the Golden Age 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
And those are the only Superman omnibuses out of print. Because a couple of them are coming back into print.
Yep.
Exile's coming back to print. Yep.
Right.
That would have been
And a lot of them don't exist.
And then a lot of them don't exist.
There is a lot. Yeah. Orion from Simonson was on the list, Havoc, and it will be in the poll when I kick it up live. And Jess, you got Ready to Golden Age. But what do you think of Supergirl Silver Age, Jess?
Oh, that is pure nostalgia for me, and I love it because I grew up with it. I not 100% sure I could recommend it to somebody who loves nothing but modern comics. Taylor could probably appreciate it since he has appreciation for the Silver Age, but as much as I love it, these are very Silver Agey.
Yeah.
The way I would pitch it to someone would be because there's a lot of fun Otto Binder stories in here, which Otto Binder is a great writer. But they really read more kind of like Archie comics mixed with superheroes because there's a lot of like kind of teenage melodrama included.
Yeah. Very wholesome.
Kind of like Archie comics of like that charming like 60s, 70s Archie comic period. Then you would dig these, but that's the only reason I'd say you'd dig them.
She would fall in and out of love very quickly.
Yeah.
And especially when she would guest star in Legion of Superheroes, and it's like, okay, well, who's she going to marry? And then I think there was one like they find like an alternate version of Superman on another planet, but and they're gonna get married. It's like, but they can't live on the same planet. This all happens in one issue.
Yeah,
rapid fire. Yeah,
and he kept her under wraps for
fun comics.
He kept her under wraps for years.
Yeah. Archie's a pretty good comparison.
Yeah, that's a better way of describing it, Taylor. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Shocked that there are no Golden Age designs.
Oh, me too. I mean, I'm not shocked, but I wish they existed. Speaking of Otto Binder.
So I know the Monster Society of Evil Deluxe has been in the catalog without a cover a few times.
Well, that got canceled,
but it has been officially canceled due to the content.
Someone realized there it would be unwise to reprint that one.
Well, the
thing is like what they could do, like Disney used to do. I don't know if they still do it or not, but they used to have like stickers or warnings, like these are products of their time when they used to release a lot of their war animated shows.
No,
because there's racial stereotypes and there's what you're going to find. Now,
they do still do that.
I know. Well, not every publisher does though. Like every publisher.
DC had it with the Detective Chimp Omni.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, the Detective Chimp Deluxe, and then there's a couple Omnis that have come out since then. Oh, I made the point when I did the overview of the new Green Lantern 1 that they have been doing that caveat there that they're a product of the times and include racial insensitivity and stuff. And then Green Lantern 1 Silver Age did not come with that caveat, and it's got the most blatant racial stereotype in there, calling the Asian kid Pie, short for Pie Face.
Yeah,
and it didn't say anything in there about how this was a product of the time, and because the Pie Face slur was meant to not only bring up an image of kind of a round face kid, but kind of dumb. And Pie's the smartest guy in the comic. He's smarter than Hal Jordan. He figures out Hal Jordan's secret identity like within 2 days. And Pie Face, and I apologize for saying that, but I'm trying to bring it.
I have never heard that in my life, but I'm also a lot younger than.
Well, yeah, they could
bring
put
it
a,
in context.
they can put a warning on it. You know, these are
Yeah, of
products
course.
their time. Yeah, they can, but they're still running the risk that if it blows up online.
Oh, I mean, this is a conversation we can have for another day. I come from the background of like, give me everything, give it to me in the original format. As long as I'm aware, I'm an adult and I can make that decision.
Right.
I'm also not an Asian kid. I'm also not a black kid that's growing up reading these things going, oh my God, is this how people saw people like me back then? This is awful. So I understand that there are two.
Yeah. Well, my point was
something-
that they didn't put that sensitivity warning in there, that this is how things were back then. And that's the book that needs it the most, was that Green Lantern Silver Age Volume 1. I just thought that was odd that a bunch of DC books now come out with that warning in small print, and it wasn't in the one that needed it most, which I thought was just odd.
Yeah.
This is a really good point. How comics for girls were written back then, mostly by middle-aged men.
Correct.
I don't know about back then, but I can tell you, like, for me, like, I was not a fan of America Chavez. Like, this is just an example of modern age comics. No matter who ended up writing the character, until Kieran Gillen wrote her, and then Al Ewing wrote her in the pages of Ultimates, and then Kieran Gillen in the pages of Young Avengers. So sometimes, I mean, I think it just doesn't, like, to me, it's never really mattered who's writing the characters, and maybe they just picked the right person for the job at the time.
Yeah, I think when it comes to reprints, they just need to be cautious because, you know, the online mob wants what it wants, as it were. Frankly, I can see why they backed off on publishing Detective Comics before Batman comes along, because that could have been a big hand.
Oh no!
And
anytime they go to, this is funny. Omar's fortunate that no one's making American comics back then knew Peru even existed. No, they did. And every time they would go to Peru, it was always the stereotypical, like, they never showed the city. They never showed civilized people. It was always the stereotypical Cusco, or people that lived in the mountains that were kind of ignorant. And I'm also the type of person that's like, yeah, sure, those people exist, but we also have this part of Peru. It never bothered me, but I don't speak for everyone. But I love my books, including manga that has been censored in America to this day. Dragon Ball Z is one of the most hardest things to get in the original format, and it's just stupid things like the Z Warriors flipping people off, like things like that have been censored in America. Like, I don't like when art is censored like that.
Sure.
I agree. And the thing to note also is that, like, I came across this kind of a revelation when I was reading, like, I read like Karl Barks and Tintin with my son a lot, and I'm able
those books.
Yeah, I'm able as a parent to point out, like, okay, this is like racially insensitive. Like, we don't do this anymore. Like, it's just like, you know, this how it was done back then, but it's not cool. But the danger is a child getting that comic into the hand with not reading it without the parent, and just like reading it and not understanding the context.
Yeah.
Now, would a child be getting an omnibus in their hands and not reading it with the parent? I don't know. Probably not. But
my daughter's read Silver Age Spider-Man, and I will never forget making that video with them. I had no idea, because I don't even notice this. My daughter looked at the camera and said, now, if you're reading this now, there are no black people in the schools. There's no Asian people in the schools. Yeah. And that's because back then there were only white people that went to the schools, and the people that were different colors and looked different went to other schools. And I was like, holy crap, she noticed things I didn't even notice.
Wow.
Like, kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for.
Yeah. No, you're right about censorship, Omar. Although it's not censorship for a publisher to just decide we're not going to reprint this.
Oh, absolutely. Really, then that's a
dicey material.
Absolutely. They can do that. Like, they have every right to do that.
Yeah.
And it sucks, and we're not going to get everything, but
Pretty soon, Detective Comics that stuff will be. If we had another decade, it'll be public domain, and people probably will reprint.
Well, remember they had the Detective Comics volumes 1 and 2, and then they canceled it. They took it out of the catalog.
Well, exactly, and I can certainly see why. I can certainly see why when they realized what was in there, they're like, "Oh, let's not do that."
Well, even the cover depiction was like that we're going to use. Are the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen rights like Watchmen? They kept to keep it as long as they keep publishing it. Just notice they had the Black Label paperback omnibus for the first 2.
They've got to be different, but the weird thing is that they were with Wildstorm originally, which operated like Image, where things were owned by the creator.
Mhm.
So when Jim Lee sold Wildstorm to DC, you would think that they wouldn't just automatically have all the rights to the creator, right? The creator owned stuff, but
yeah. It depends on the contracts it depends on the contract.
Right.
I believe I'm right in saying with the Warren Ellis stuff like the Authority and Planetary, flat out, Ellis does not own it. Wildstorm owns it. Now they have an obligation to keep paying them, royalties and stuff, but they own it. So do they own League? I mean, I don't think so, but
actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Wildstorm separated from Image for a little bit before they sold to DC.
Yeah.
So I wonder if the creator rights things changed when that separation happened, and then when they sold to DC.
Well, I mean, if it was all under the Wildstorm label, that's what kind of surprises me about Danger Girl.
Right. So they weren't Image. They were just Wildstorm.
Image. Yeah. So I was talking about the Silver Age Supergirl. I didn't mean it. Oh, I didn't. We didn't. I swear I didn't take it as a slam. I just thought it would be. Maybe that's what happened back then. They just kind of gave it to the right. As we know, that era of comics isn't known for hiring a lot of women, and if they weren't really writers, and some of them were inkers. Yeah. As a Peruvian, for a Peruvian stereotypes in comics, a character with Pancho, Julio, and Llama with a pan flute as his weapon. God, he's not lying, man. You just get, I don't know. I got used to it. I'm like, whatever.
Those attack llamas, yeah.
Teen Titans. So we have Teen Titans Silver Age Omnibus, Bronze Age Omnibus, and then new Teen Titans Omnibus Volume 2 and 3. That is the Wolfman and Perez era. They just reprinted Volume 1 last year. Mm-hmm. So perhaps we will get those, but if you want to vote for them, go for it. Sure. Wonderful books, by the way. Wonder Woman Omnis. So this is Omnis 3 and 4. Mm-hmm. We had a reprint of Volume 1, right? Just last year?
Yes.
I think. Mm-hmm. Diana Prince celebrating the 60s Omnis, which is a really interesting name. That's when they changed it up completely. And then Wonder Woman by
fan, if I remember.
And then Wonder Woman by Perez 2 and 3, War of the Gods, which wraps up the Perez era as well, but is also included in Volume 3, just the War of the Gods events, and that actually has artwork by Phil Jimenez in it for the first time. And then speaking of Phil Jimenez, the Wonder Woman by Phil Jimenez Omnibus, which reads like a Silver Age comic. It is dialogue heavy. Prepare yourself to do a lot of reading. I sped over Teen Titans. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Teen Titans. I cannot recommend New Teen Titans high enough. Like that to me was the X-Men for DC Comics. Like that era.
It outsold X-Men.
And a couple of times it was
that
they were neck and neck most of the time, but
I think it was DC's highest seller.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
But,
that's it.
But I don't know that it was outselling X-Men, or certainly
they were neck and neck at one time. Yeah. Silver Age and Golden Age. I had the Silver Age Omni and I let it go, and I didn't even try the Bronze Age Omni.
They're not great. I think Marv Wolfman, does write a few of the issues in the Bronze Age Omnibus, but it's not to the new Teen Titans quality that he joins on with Perez. I love Silver Age and Bronze Age comics, as you guys know, and I can't recommend those two. They're okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not without reason. When Perez and Wolfman, went to DC and made their pitch to do Teen Titans, there was kind of like, well, why would we do that? It didn't work well before, and they're like, but we can do it really great. And it's true. Yeah, they enormously improved on it.
No, I went back to freaking Teen Titans because the people said I sped through it, Bart.
Don't worry, Bar. We're going back to Wonder Woman.
I'm going back to Wonder Woman.
Try to get
yes, and I completely give my seal of approval to New Teen Titans Omnis. They're phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Hold on a second. One was pre-crisis, and by the time you get to 2, It's post-Crisis, but it's one of those books that it wasn't even affected by Crisis. It was that good of a book.
Not much. Yeah.
Like, it was like we're not revamping hardly anything. Wolfman did write Crisis on Infinite Earths. Perez did draw it, so they were like, yeah, you just keep writing like New Teen Titans. Like, it was always taking place after Infinite or Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way that it worked. Did anybody read the Bronze Age of Teen Titans? Because that was the one that I skipped on. I don't think I've ever read a single story there.
No.
I read it in floppies. That's the Bronze Age era in the 70s that I made was part of my hiatus. That helped me take a break.
Did you read it?
Weirdly, I've occasionally dipped in there just to read a single issue of like, just what was going on with Beast Boy, who was in there before he became Changeling, or there's certain characters I've gone and looked at single issues to fill in their histories, but I'm like, nah, it's not great.
Yeah, I've dipped in a little bit. I read some of the Wolfman issues because I'm a big fan of New Teen Titans, so I was seeing like, did Wolfman write some good stuff in the Bronze? But it's just okay. Like, it's not awful, it's not bad, but it's just okay.
That's one that I never read, so I will take your word for it. All right, Wonder Woman, Golden Age 3 and 4, 2 still in print. They just reprinted Volume 1. We did get a Silver Age 2. Diana Prince, Jess Omnidog gave it the seal of approval. Celebrating.
No, I did not.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was the conversation you were having with Chris.
I'm right here.
Starting to spread some fun rumors about you, Jess.
He's like, give me them products of their time.
It almost worked too.
Even Denny O'Neil, in hindsight, said that was not his best idea, and it is just not well drawn. Peace and love to Mike Sikowski. God rest his soul, and God rest Denny O'Neil's soul. This was not a shining moment for Wonder Woman when she turned into a spy and got modern costumed up and stuff. Nice. Even as like a 12-year-old, I was like, what happened here? I am not going to read this. It was not
Hashtag not Jess's Wonder Woman.
That's exactly right. The Golden Age stuff has, especially volumes 1 and 2, actually is very well written and has a lot of good stories. That's the best of the Golden Age stuff that DC's put out, and just in my opinion, for Wonder Woman.
And I'll say that our Peter M., the frequent guest here, is a huge fan of those GoldenAge era omnibuses.
Right.
He does love his Golden Age one. Do you?
Yeah.
How many more Teen Titans Omnis will we? Oh gosh. Hold on. 6 was solicited and canceled. Yeah. No. Yeah. 6 was solicited and canceled. I
think like 9 or 10. I don't know. A lot though.
They could wrap it up in 3 more Omnis. Just the Wolfman and Perez stuff, not going into the other era.
Well, Wolfman keeps writing even past that, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, and then it becomes New Titans and
Teen Titans.
But I mean, if they fatten them up, they could do it in 3 or 4 more Omnis.
Well, these haven't been fat though. These were like 700 pagers.
There's like, no, you might be right. There's like 70 issues there, or no, that might be 80 issues.
Yeah, but 80 issues between 2 Omnis.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah,
like it's not that much.
No.
And then Wonder Woman by Perez, again, beautiful story, beautiful artwork. Perez does end up leaving the book though.
Yeah, volumes 2 and 3, he writes it and doesn't so much draw it.
He's still the writer. He does come back for the War of the Gods though. Yeah, as well as Phil Jimenez. And Phil Jimenez does beautiful, absolutely stunning artwork on Wonder Woman. I really like this era. It is really, really dialogue heavy. I do tell people ahead of time that, be prepared to sit down and do some reading.
What period is a Jimenez omnibus? Like what years? Around about.
Oh, that's after John Byrne's run and right before the Greg Rucka era.
Okay.
And before we go any further and we kick this live, if these books ever come back to print and you live in Europe, check out waltzcomicshop.com. They're based out of Berlin, Germany. Cheapest pre-order prices for Marvel and DC big books, which is important here. Flat shipping rates of €12 for all EU countries. And don't forget to put in near mint condition, all one word at the checkout. You get free shipping for all EU countries within the first, or with your first order of over €40 or more. That's waltzcomicshop.com, your reliable source for Omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ting. And I am officially kicking this off right now. So
on live.
If you go and refresh this F5 or just hit the refresh button on YouTube. In the description, I put where the reprint is. You guys can do it too. You guys can go vote now too. It says DC and
We have
absolute
money too.
reprint polls. Yes. So don't forget to refresh this YouTube stream. And if you're watching this later, let's timestamp this. What are we at here? We're at the hour and 39-minute mark. I'm going to show everybody how to vote, but make sure you refresh it. And thank you so much. Look at my dude.
Yeah.
James Abel on top of it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing that, buddy. So click on that link. That will take you directly to the poll. It is very easy to vote. Very, very similar to what we did before. Just go ahead and put this in here right there. Let me just share my screen. It's simple to vote, just like we did the Marvel Most Wanted Omni reprints. And
God, that last question. Very nice.
Sharing. So it's easy. So you just go in here, put your email. People have been getting, sometimes you get emails like, thank you for your voting, and sometimes it goes straight to your spam. Make sure that it's very important that we never send you anything. We're not going to spam you or anything. You might just get, like I said, a thank you for voting. And then you vote. It is in alphabetical order. So you vote for 5 books. First choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, fifth choice. And very much like the Marvel Omnis, your first vote counts as the most points. Your second vote counts. And these are not my books I'm voting for, by the way. I'm just using these as an example. Third vote, you get the idea. You all are smart people. Otherwise, you wouldn't be reading and collecting Omnis or Absolute Editions. Very, very important. After you're done with your 5 votes, you come all the way down to the bottom of the page. And what the hell is even that question? Pick the answer so we know you're not a bot. What is your name on YouTube? Uncanny Omar. You don't have to put this in there, by the way. You do have to answer the question up here, though. I don't get this reference. And then you hit, very important, submit. And that is it. Somebody wants to take a timestamp when I did that. It was at the hour and 39-minute mark. So if you know the reference, hell yes. If you don't know the reference, well, look it up. Google it. But that's it. That's all you do to vote. And I am going to leave this open. Let me make sure I got the right dates here. I'm going to leave this open until May 3rd at noon, 12 p.m. Eastern time. So you got a couple of weeks to think about it. And then I will come back with a video doing the top 20 Absolute and Omnis together in one list. I'm going to send that list over to DC. I have 3 contacts. Who knows? They may look at it. They may be like, whatever. But the more people we get to vote, the more attention we can have. So share it, like Taylor said. That was a good idea, Taylor, on social media. Share it on Reddit, on forums, on Facebook pages, wherever it is. You don't have to share the video. I mean, if you want to, cool, whatever. But definitely share the list where people can vote. Please keep it to 1 vote per person. You know, if your auntie's living with you and she likes DC Comics, sure, she can come and vote. But if you're trying to vote from the same household with different IPs, even if you're trying to use different ways of getting around it, we've gotten really good at this. So please try not to, because it is very important to note that, you know, we don't want to lie about the votes. That's what we got, right? We don't want if DC 52 Omnibus Volume 1 makes the list, I'm going to be wondering why it's got 300 votes from the same IP addresses. So that's pretty much it. Keep it honest and make yourself feel good about yourself. Go and vote. That's it. That's all we got.
I just voted.
Wow. You already knew yours. I am curious what I want to know at least one of the books you all are voting for, and then the chat, and then we can call it a day. Lars, what's one book that you want from DC Comics to be reprinted? Absolute or Omni?
Absolute Crisis in Infinite Earths, which is, again, slightly ridiculous because it exists in so many other formats. But I did somehow miss it the first time around, and it's one that I think would benefit from the bigger format. So, and it's got that great supplemental book that has like tons of behind-the-scenes details on Crisis in there. So, yeah, one that's a little odd that it's not been reprinted before now.
Taylor, what about you, my friend? What are you voting for?
Just one. I'm gonna go with Long Halloween. I love that story. It's my all-time favorite comic books. It's one of the comic books that like really sunk me in when I first time I read it as a comic book fan. I was like, I need to read more of this stuff. And I actually sold my Loeb Sale Omnibus a few years ago in anticipation for a reprint of the Absolutes. It's kind of trying to will it into existence.
Right.
So here's my chance to vote for it.
It
Got my
didn't
number
work.
1 vote. It hasn't worked
Chris.
yet, but it will.
Chris, you don't have to tell me your number 1 vote, but just what, like any of them, just one.
It's if I'm gonna put them all together, Promethea and Absolute Transmetropolitan 3.
Yeah.
Excellent. What about you, Jess?
I think that selfishly, I'd like Harley Quinn Volume 2 to be back in print.
Sure.
You don't have that one?
I do, but I want other people to be able to get it.
Well, that's not selfishly. That's unselfishly, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll throw Volume 3 in there too, then, for Harley Quinn.
You're much nicer
Agree.
than you thought.
I am. Okay. Yeah. I'd like people to be able to read it because it's really fun. And what got me
Is
into
there
Harley
not
Quinn.
a great darkness option? Believe it or not, there's not an absolute or an
No,
omnibus. It's
no,
just a
there's,
deluxe
no,
edition.
there's no. Shamelessly, there's nothing.
There's an
Uh,
oversized
it gets-
hardcover for that.
An
The link is in the description of the video. Just oh my gosh,
Refresh.
F5. Thank you. Just look at IT Jess. Refresh this video, and it.
Well, see, I don't have an F key, so
an absolute edition of the Great Darkness Saga would be awesome.
I would be down. An absolute edition of Teen Titans, like those first few, or the Judas contract.
The Judas
Oh
contract.
my
No, that it would be the Judas
Yeah.
contract. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we can do that next year. Right now, we're putting all our focus on the most wanted DC Omnis.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm with Jess. I want people to experience that beautiful George Perez artwork. So JLA Avengers, I think, gets my vote.
Yeah.
That's probably gonna get my first vote, and then second, maybe something a little selfish for me. But that's it. Everybody knows how to vote. Everybody spread the word. Thank you all so much for voting. I will be sending the list over to DC, and whatever they decide to do is up to them. They may look at the list, they may not, but at least we're trying. And I guess
We're
that's important.
trying. That's all we can do.
Big thank you again to James for putting the poll together, to Taylor for working behind the scenes with a freaking amazing slideshow, for Dom of X for helping behind the scenes. If you're wondering where Peter M is, he is that busy with the most wanted DC. That man is taken seriously. Like, he's that busy, not just putting lists together, but we're going to be working together, mapping things for people to get an idea. And it's a little bit of a nightmare too, because the backbone that we're given is kind of spotty, like, as to what's needed. And if we missed anything, please leave it in the comments of this video. And if you're like, hey, this book is out of print and it wasn't on the list, we checked it, we triple checked it, but we're also human beings and we make mistakes. So by that I mean Taylor, because he's the one that did it. I don't make mistakes.
Hey, I'll take
But
it.
no, seriously, leave it in the comments if you accidentally missed something. Now, I will be at C2E2 next week. So if you're in Chicago, come and see me. Have some drinks with us at 8 p.m. And Lars is going to be with me.
I will be there too, but come see Omar. Yeah.
Yes, come and see Lars too. And then we have a panel on Saturday at 12 p.m. at the actual C2E2 event.
Yep.
Fun.
Oddfell will be there. Wonder Maddie.
Oddfell is going to be there. Wonder Maddie's with us, and the astonishing Melanie's going to be there. So come and have fun with us.
So, we're having a meet and greet on Friday night and a panel on Saturday at noon.
Thank you. And I think that's it. I still will have a live Q&A next week, but it will be a little bit earlier, about 9:30 a.m. instead of the usual 11 a.m. And if you have questions, leave them in the comments below. I'm going to let my panel tell a little bit about themselves and where you can find them and follow them. And please do. These are some fine folks.
Yeah, Lars Pearson, again, Mad Norwegian Press. You can find me at www.madnorwegian.com. And usually I am writing or editing books on Doctor Who.
I am Taylor of Taylor Talks Comics. I have a YouTube channel. We go live once a week to go over the comic book industry news. Our next show will be Tuesday at noon. And I'm also the NMC SMG social media guy.
Oh, SMG. Nice. Chris.
I'm Chris Balga. You can follow me on all the socials everywhere at Chris Balga, part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network on all podcasts of choice, and follow all our live shows at Geekverse Podcast on YouTube.
Okay. And
I am Omnidog, the Silver Age Silver Fox, and the ambassador of comics. You can find me on You can find me on OmniDog's Vault on YouTube. I have OmniDog's Discord, and on Instagram, OmniDog_Vault. Thank you, Omar, for inviting me.
Absolutely, buddy. This is a lot more fun with all you folks. I am the Uncanny Omar, the conquistador of comics.
I love it. I love it.
And I thank you so much for watching. Check out cheapgraphicnovels.com. Tell them your Big Edition sent you their way. For books up to 50% off and free shipping on your next order after your first one. They're having a huge sale on Marvel Comics. That's it for us, everyone. Hit that like button on the way out and share the reprint poll. Yeah. Goodbye, everybody. And have a wonderful rest of your Sunday or Monday, wherever you are.
Peace and love.
He left and didn't shut it down.
He didn't shut it down. Good. He booted himself out.
Let's just stay here and he's trying to talk crap about him.
I did.